today's transfer plans video, I'm going to discuss in detail how I plan to attack double game week 24 and also why I'm considering selling one of my double Arsenal defence. So let's jump into today's transfer plans video. Just before we get stuck into the transfer plans bit of the video, of course, I do like to analyse the game week previous to see if I can see any issues with the squad and, of course, address them in the transfer plans section of the video. Now, if you do enjoy today's video, do make sure you drop a like, and if you aren't subscribed to the channel, please do consider it because I am on the road to 1,000 subscribers before the end of the Premier League season. But with one of the main topics of the video being, well, what do we do with the double Arsenal defence? I think it is an important place to start. Of course, very disappointing over the last few weeks. And of course, now with the confirmed news that Saliba isn't going to be available for the next few weeks of the Premier League, it does drastically weaken the Arsenal defence. And there is a strong consideration now to sell at least one of these assets going forward into the next few weeks of the Premier League. We'll move on to Robinson just next to him. Of course, 2 bonus points and a clean sheet against Leicester. Maybe we expected an attack and return, but I don't think we can complain whatsoever with that 8-point total. Similar with Trent, 2 bonus points, just missing out on the 3 bonus points because Darwin did score the 2 goals. Of course, Ipswich next week, double game week. Wolves after, really great player, really enjoying owning Trent. Of course, frustrating some weeks, but you have weeks like this with Trent where you can come away with more than 10 points, which is exactly what you want from a defender in FPL, in my opinion. I suppose we'll stay on the Liverpool team and talk about his teammate Mohamed Salah, who plays just in front of him. I captained him this game week. I seen a narrative which was strong enough for me to consider Salah as a captain. Of course, at the GTEC Stadium, before the match, there was a total of 50 goals scored by Brentford and their opponents. Compared that to Brentford travelling away from their home ground, there was 27 goals scored by them and their opponents. So, for me, I thought it was a great narrative to follow along for captaincy. I didn't really consider Chris Wood, Isak or Palmer as much, and maybe that comes back to bite me when Palmer potentially plays later. But yeah, a little bit disappointing, but I have to give credit to the low block that Brentford played. They kept Liverpool at bay for the majority of the game. Yes, there was chances, but those chances weren't as good of quality as maybe you would have expected from Liverpool in the final third. And I sort of think that kind of takes me on Mbeumo, because Mbeumo actually had a really decent game, sort of on that counter-attack. Yes, there were shots for him, but again, the quality of chance that Mbeumo had in the game, Alisson just really found it easy to save the shots and sort of shut down the Brentford attack. But still, he had a good game, and maybe on another day he comes away with a goal and potentially an assist. But still, a little bit disappointing. Sarr, extremely disappointing for me. Of course, at the time I did pick Ismaila Sarr. Eze wasn't an option in FPL. He wasn't playing football, and getting Sarr then allowed me actually to afford Alexander Isak. So I can't be too mad at myself for picking Ismaila Sarr because it's allowed me to get Isak, who's definitely helped my team significantly over the last few weeks. Of course, he's been absolutely on fire. But yeah, there is a consideration now to sell Ismaila Sarr. He came off, I do believe, in the 67th minute. Yeah, 67th minute. So definitely an issue in my squad that I'm going to consider in the next section of the video. In terms of the forward line, we've got Mr. Invisible in the middle of the pitch there, João Pedro. I mean, as a pick, I think he's more disappointing than anyone else in my team. The issue is at the price point. Can I complain too much? Probably not. And I think with the fixtures coming up for Brighton and the fact that Welbeck is back in the squad, maybe it does improve João Pedro, but he is a slight worry going forward into the next few weeks with just how bad he's been in terms of FPL returns. Of course, he had the goal disallowed, but it was the right decision at the end of the day, so I can't be, angry about that. Isak, of course, I didn't end up captaining him, and maybe I'm kind of glad I didn't captain him because Bournemouth had an absolute field day at St James's Park, and I did mention in sort of my team selection video last week why I wasn't captaining Alexander Isak, and I kind of did predict it right. I think Bournemouth are just a good team, resilient, just very resilient, attacking strong. Maybe I didn't expect a a 4 goals from Bournemouth, and of course a goal from Kirkes even, but yeah, I was sort of right for not captaining Isak. But with Chris Wood, of course, again, very, very good player, scoring goals, a goal and assist, so maybe not the haul people were expecting, which I kind of understood would happen because there's not been a lot of times that he scored over 10 points a season. I think the amount of times he scored over 10 points a season is now on 3, so you probably could have guessed that he was going to do well against Southampton. I just thought Salah would do slightly better, but I was wrong in that decision. It brings us to Parma at the end of this sort of review of the game week. We just don't know anything at this point. At the time of recording, we haven't even seen any leaks, any team news, or anything at all to do with Cole Palmer and sort of the other Chelsea injuries as well. If it's the case he's out long term, that will just blow FPL up, and there'll be so many different options in how to play the game, and I think it will be kind of a important, pivotal part of the game if he is out long term. I just can't see it. It was a small knock. Maybe he gets rested for this fixture, potentially next, but I think he'll play tonight. He's such an important player to Chelsea, but we've just got to wait and see on that one. But now we've discussed sort of the issues with the squad, how I'm thinking and feeling about the team. Let's move on to the transfer plan section, how I'm planning to attack double game week 24. Right now, we're on to the transfer plans section of the video. A little bit more meat in this section, so bear with me as I discuss all of my plans for the future of the next few weeks of the game. I think where we'll start is the double Arsenal offence again. Who am I planning to sell out of those two? You can probably guess who it is. It is David Raya. I think the attacking potential of Gabriel, the fixtures he's got coming up, I think he is a better keep than David Raya. And who else to get in apart from the man who's got a great fixture this week and the double game week coming up straight after? Alisson Becker. I think it's definitely the move I'm considering this week to prepare for double game week 24. And I think as well, arguably, Wolves away for Arsenal is a much more difficult fixture than Ipswich at home for Liverpool. So maybe a slight gain if we see again a Arsenal clean sheet wipe. I don't think it's too likely because Wolves just aren't too great attacking-wise, but maybe tonight against a sort of depleted Chelsea side, we might see a little bit more joy for Wolves and potentially Matheus Cunha returning to the side, but that knock still, it's kind of still up in the air on whether he will be available. Ismail Sarr is the next consideration to sell for me, and I think the reason for that is because Eze is just the better option right now. There is sort of doubts about that sort of knock that Sarr has on his hamstring. Is it going to be a real issue going forward? Is it not? I don't know currently, and I think the price rise for Eze, the sort of that higher price point you're paying at the moment, is definitely worth it with the output he's putting out. He gets more shots. He's kind of a little bit more creative. Sarr kind of drives that ball forward and maybe isn't looking at too many goals so far, but Eze is, so I think it's definitely a move I am considering. It comes to then the defensive options in sort of that third slot. You've got Trent, you've got Gabriel, then you've got Robinson, Kirkes or Vandenberg. Out of the lot of them, of course, Kirkes has the highest predicted points, and that's probably because of that Newcastle fixture they've just played, but I still think Robinson with Manchester United at home is the slight better option for me in terms of fixture. United are just inconsistent, and I'm not too sure they'll do amazing against a Fulham side away from home. So we will see on that decision, because it may be the case I do play Kirkes, but with Wood up front, maybe it's not the best idea. Benching Rodgers might be the way I go. It could be the fact I just go ahead and bench João Pedro because he has been disappointing, and I'm not too sure whether I'm going to be keeping him in my team too much longer, but we'll go with the predicted points on this one. We'll go with the fact that João Pedro has penalties, and West Ham kind of have been looking a little bit better under Graham Potter, but really not too much better at all. Takes us then to double game week 24. This is how I would most likely line up for the game week. I think the consideration would be to play Rodgers over João Pedro despite the expected points. I think Wolves away is just a better fixture for him. It comes to then the defence again. The fixture run for the next sort of 3 to 4 weeks in my defence just isn't great with the options I have, but the options I could bring in just aren't better options in terms of fixture runs past these few game weeks. So I think keeping the likes of a Robinson, Kirkes and Vandenberg might be the way to go. And there is a small consideration to just play Vandenberg over Robinson and Kirkes because of the fixture. I think Spurs at home for Brentford's actually not bad as a fixture compared to Newcastle away and Liverpool at home for Kirkes. Gabriel's a slight issue with Man City at home, but there's kind of the idea that maybe on set pieces, that's how they can go ahead and try win the game. I'm just not too sure yet, and I think the defence in this week's probably the weakest point of the team. The rest of the team looks pretty strong, to be really honest with you. Of course, having Salah there, Mbeumo with his good run of fixtures, obviously starting in 23. Yeah, I am pretty happy with the rest of the team. It's just sort of these two spots in defence I'm not too keen on in particular. Maybe there's the argument to go ahead and sell Robinson and go to a Munoz and just play Munoz in that position there against Manchester United away. Maybe that's a move I make, but I'm just not too sure on that. We'll leave him in for the squad for now because the fixtures are pretty good, and maybe it's something I do consider going forward. And of course, Robinson's fixtures don't look particularly great, but Robinson himself is performing pretty well, just like Fulham. But yeah, that's maybe how we would attack the double game week 24. Of course, captaincy on Salah. If you have that triple captaincy chip, I think it definitely could be a consideration to use it this week. Maybe the assistant manager chip if you do want to use it at this point of the season. I think I might get more value out of it if I just wait towards the end of the Premier League season to try kind of get those extra points in terms of Premier League position points. It could be the fact that Spurs are still really bad, but at the end of the season they're looking to get back into sort of maybe that top half of the Premier League. Who knows? Maybe United. We don't really know at this point. I think there's maybe a little bit more points to be gained towards an end of a season with an assistant manager chip. A bit more risk to it, of course, potentially there. But yeah, I think that's where I would save it for personally. But yeah, double game week 24 looked pretty decent. We then move on to sort of game week 25. Defence looks a lot better. You've got Kirkes with Southampton away from home, which I think is a brilliant fixture for him. And maybe it's the consideration that I bench one of the midfielders or a forward option in Isak with the Man City fixture to then get sort of 4 at the back. But maybe I just go ahead and do Kirkes instead of Munoz. But Everton at home's a really good fixture. So potentially someone else could be benched, but everyone's really got nice fixtures. Do I bench Isak in that one? Definitely not. So I think that's probably how I'd line up. One of Kirkes or Munoz in that position there. Of course, Kirkes has a brilliant fixture with Southampton, so I'd love to play him maybe over Munoz. I suppose we'll get to that later on. I suppose we'll plan ahead one more week just while we're on Fantasy Football Hub's planning tool. João Pedro comes back into the team with sort of an amazing Southampton away fixture again. Trent and Becker have City away from home, which isn't ideal, yes, but I think I would rather have Liverpool assets against City than in comparison the Arsenal assets for the double Arsenal assets with the 24 City fixture. So I think that's why Alisson Becker becomes probably one of my favourite goalkeeper picks. But yeah, there's a lot to consider in the next few weeks of the game. I'll just recap what I'm planning to do in game week 23 in sort of preparation for the double game weeks coming up. I like Eze in for Sarr because of the minutes issue that we've just received from Sarr. Maybe it's an injury issue, maybe it's not. Maybe I just keep a hold of Sarr, in fact, if we find out good news about him. But Eze just has been the standout option. I think I'm definitely going to consider him, even though he's probably not on penalties, especially after Mateta scored one. And of course, selling David Raya to go to Alisson Becker for the better fixture this week, and of course that double game week. I didn't mention too much in 23 about a defensive transfer, but like I say, maybe even I go for a Munoz slightly earlier and just have it this week and use 3 of the 4 allocated free transfers. But yeah, there's a lot to consider in the next few weeks of the game. Game week 23 is the week to prepare for double game week 24. In terms of the double Liverpool defence, I think that's the way I'm likely to go in terms of attacking the double game week. I'm not too keen on Everton players. Pickford's not really a standout option for me. Mikalenko, again, not a standout option for me. Calvert-Lewin, Iliman Ndiaye, I'm not really considering at this moment of time. But yeah, that's how I'm planning to attack double game week 24 and sort of my plans going forward into the next few weeks of FPL. Of course, to outro every single video, I like to give you guys at home a massive thank you for supporting the FPL Mugs YouTube channel. Of course, if you have enjoyed today's video, make sure you drop a like. If you aren't yet subscribed to the channel, please do consider it for future FPL content and deadline streams. But that's absolutely everything for today's video. Thank you again so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.